Many people going through the guardianship process find that there is at least one relative that is entitled to notice of the proceedings that is either unknown or can't be located. If you already know the identity and location of the minor child's parents, grandparents, and siblings over age 12, you may skip this video. For anyone with at least one or more relatives that are unknown or cannot be located, this video will discuss finding these relatives and asking the court to excuse providing notice to them if they cannot be found or identified. In Sacramento, the court has developed a mandatory local form to be used to document your attempts to identify or locate a relative and ask that the court dispense with notice to that person. One copy of this form, Local Form PRELP-010, needs to be completed for each relative that cannot be located. This form walks you through the minimum efforts that the court wishes to see made in an attempt to locate someone before it will consider dispensing with notice to that person. The top caption of the form is much like the forms that you have already completed, including the top box in which you write your name, address, and telephone number. In pro per can be written in the attorney for area. In the box below the court's address, check the box to indicate that this form is being used in a guardianship and write the name of the child or children. To the right, fill in the case number, and below that the hearing date and time. If you read this form carefully, it will make sense when read with your filled-in information. On the first line, after name of the person I need to give notice to is, write the name of the relative you cannot locate or cannot identify. If you do not know the name of the person, you may use unknown and the description of who the person is, such as unknown paternal grandfather. The next line is the last known address for this person. If you know it, write it in. Otherwise, write as much information as you have, or unknown if you have none. The next line is the approximate date when the person last lived at that address. Obviously, if no last address is known, the answer to this would also be unknown. In the three checkboxes, check the first box that begins guardianship only, and then at the end of that line, write the relationship of that person to the child or children in the guardianship proceeding. Examples include mother, father, brother, sister, maternal grandmother, paternal grandfather, etc. Your first step in locating someone is to typically ask relatives of that person where they are. Contact relatives you know of for the person you are seeking, and take careful notes.
Hello, are you Mary Simmons? Hi, this is Peggy Lee. I'm Roger's mother, the other grandmother of Haley. That's right, we met once last December. Haley has been living with me for the last couple of months, and I am applying to become her guardian. I am going to have some documents mailed to you about this, but I also need to get a copy of this to your daughter Melissa. You wouldn't happen to know how I could get into contact with her, would you? You neither? Well, thanks anyways. If you find out where she is, would you mind giving me a call to let me know? Yes, that's my number. Thank you so much. Bye.
In paragraph 1, you will write the names in relationship to the person you are seeking of each relative you contact, as well as the address and telephone number of that relative. Below that, in the results of interview and additional information received, summarize what you learned. If you are unable to contact any relatives, indicate none for the name of the relative and indicate why you could not contact them in the space below. For example, if the person you are seeking is an unknown father, you might not know any relatives for him. Whatever the circumstances, briefly describe what you learned or explain why you were unable to contact any relatives. The same process is repeated, except for friends in paragraph 2 and employers in paragraph 3. When completing the first 3 paragraphs, it is possible you might know relatives but not friends and employers, or maybe employers but not relatives or friends. Whatever the circumstances, be sure to explain in each paragraph in clear, concise language what you learned. In paragraph 4, for whatever cities you have reason to believe the relative might be living, look through the residential white pages for that city or town and call the information operator asking for that person. Indicate the date, city, and state involved in the search and the results where indicated. Fewer and fewer places these days publish residential white pages. If you are searching one of these areas, you may not be able to locate a copy of the white pages to search, but you will still be able to call information to see if the person has a listed number. Paragraph 5 requires that you search the index of the Recorder and Assessor's Office of any county the person you are searching for may live or have property. In most counties, you can do this first part online. Many of the recorder's offices maintain an online index of documents. This will allow you to determine if any documents have been recorded. Unfortunately, the law prohibits them from placing these documents online, so if you find a potentially relevant document, you will either need to view the document at the recorder's office or order a copy by mail. The Sacramento County Clerk Recorder's website is located at the address listed on the screen. Once you are on this page, click the large link that says Record Search. You will be redirected to a page on a system called eRosie. On the search page, enter the person's last name and at least the first couple of letters of their first name. Next, select a decade to search, starting with the most recent, for example, 2010. Depending on how common the name is, your search will result in a list of documents or indicate that no records match your search. There are a lot of different types of documents that are recorded. However, a number of them can be ignored, while others may have the information that you are looking for. First, ignore any documents indicating that they are listed as deeds of trust. These are financial documents pertaining to mortgages, where the right to foreclose in the event of a default is being assigned to a trustee. Next, ignore utility liens. These documents will typically list dozens to hundreds of names. Instead, focus on grant or quitclaim deeds where the person you are seeking is listed as a grantee. Also, look for judgments where that person is listed as the debtor. Judgments are useful because an abstract of judgment will typically list the last known address of the debtor. Deeds themselves don't have the property address on them. However, the assessor's parcel number, or APN, listed on the deed can be used to search the county tax assessor's parcel viewer to provide an address. Follow any leads that you may find and write down the results. Moving on to paragraph 6, you will need to search for the person you are trying to find on the internet. The court does not expect you to use pay sites, but expects you to use anything you would reasonably use to find a person for free. This would include websites such as Facebook, Google, Twitter, and other sites that have public profiles for individuals that you can locate. Write down the name of the websites that you used where it says location, and then the date that you did your search. After that, indicate what results you found. When doing this search, try to imagine the steps you would take trying to find a long-lost classmate or friend. For paragraph 7, you will need to see if the person you are seeking is in prison or jail. Jails are operated by the counties under the watch of the county's sheriff's department. Sacramento's 2 jails, downtown, and the Rio Cosumnes Correctional Center, or RCCC, are operated by the Sacramento County Sheriff. To see if the person is in either of these facilities, on the internet, connect to www.sacsheriff.com. On that page, scroll down and you will find a link that says View Inmate Booking and Location Info. Select it. On the next page that pops up, choose the link to search by name. Enter the name of the person you are seeking, and the result will indicate whether a person with that name has been booked into the jail and is currently there. Use the other information indicated in the listing to determine if this is the person that you are seeking. Many states provide a means of looking at whether a person is in state prison. The easiest way to do this in California is to use the CDCR Inmate Locator Service. You may go to this online by going to the URL inmatelocator.gov www.cdcr.ca.gov. Once you are at that page, agree to the terms and conditions to begin your search. Enter the last name and the first few letters of the first name of the person you are seeking and press search. Once you do this, you will see a list of inmates, if any, that match that search criteria. Use the age and admission date to narrow your search if more than one inmate matches your criteria. Once you have done that, make a note of the inmate number and click on the facility holding the inmate to obtain that facility's contact information. If you locate an inmate in either prison or jail, they may be easily served by either contacting the sheriff operating the jail and arranging to have that inmate served, or by contacting the prison and finding out what their specific directions are to have an inmate served. If you do not locate the person, make a note of the search that you did, and once you have done this, write the date that you conducted the search in the spot provided, and below the results of what you found out. Finally, if there is any additional information that you believe the court may find useful to determine that the person you are seeking cannot be located, write this information in paragraph 8. This is particularly useful in situations where very little is known about the person, as it can be used to explain the circumstances as to why so little is known, or the circumstances under which contact with this person was originally lost. Finally, to complete this form, where it says, "Despite my diligent efforts, I have not been able to find," write the name of the person you are seeking, and then after, "and therefore ask the court's permission to dispense with notice to," write this person's name again. Finally, date, sign, and print your name where indicated at the bottom. Now that you have done this, make 2 copies of this form, leave the original form unstapled, but staple each of the 2 copies, and file it with the probate court in the same place that you filed the guardianship to begin with. The court clerk will keep the original and will stamp the copies and return them to you. There is no charge for filing this document in your case.